My vast knowledge of almost everything makes me indispensable on the voyage.
Well, I am impressed with your quest for knowledge. Well, I am sorry to hear of your illness, but since you have sacrificed your health for knowledge of my home country, I find you very attractive and...
No man would have knowledge superior to Bryson's regarding my design and construction.
He wants to enter that garden with a knowledge and a mulch.
Better brush up on your finance knowledge.
But knowledge is no use without action.
Where there is knowledge,
has been made less difficult to me by the sure knowledge that my brother, with his long training in the public affairs of this country,
ready to see the family tear itself apart, secure in the knowledge it will be all undone when the talks report comes to light.
You shouldn't have any knowledge of that anyway.
He'd have knowledge of bus routes, which the two major threats centered around.
He opened up for her a whole beautiful world full of knowledge and thoughts and ideals.
No language skills or in-country knowledge.
There's simply more of them, tightly packed with infinite genetic knowledge, almost like this being was engineered.
I find that polishing my interactions knowledge make them sociable requires a tremendous effort.
A world of tools and knowledge left to find.
Second date is dinner, full carnal knowledge.
Knowledge of music, literature.
Common knowledge that you hate me.
Not in the sense that there hasn't been hanky-panky, to my knowledge.
Oh. Of course, your husband had no previous knowledge of this bequest.
True, but that's hardly common knowledge, is it?
I wish I could shield you from the knowledge that you did what you did, but your sister is dead!
And new knowledge would never be withheld by Armand.
Pilot never stops acquiring knowledge.
Well, we've been looking for someone with a crazy grudge and some kind of anatomical knowledge.
Honey, you want to rebel against knowledge.
Common knowledge.
He came forward with first-hand knowledge of the plot against you.
We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won.
You have no knowledge?
You're not the only one cursed with knowledge.
She must have a thorough knowledge of music, singing, drawing, dancing, and the modern languages to deserve the word.
Naturally, your knowledge of English makes you an ideal choice to go into his service and to find out for us whether or not he is a spy.
I'm told that if your father's knowledge gets into the wrong hands, things could get a little messy.
Well, if I accepted that, in a court of law, they could prove that I have knowledge of his whereabouts.
It's full of knowledge.
She had a thirst for knowledge.
I believe you are the only Jedi with no knowledge of this plot.
That the power that propels me does so with superior knowledge as to what is for the best.
To your knowledge, is the defendant left-handed?
This is knowledge divided.
Honor bound to expand the frontiers of knowledge.
And we have begun the full-scale test of Earth's first system built by the sharing of knowledge with a neighbor in our universe.
And set my feet upon the path of knowledge.
Knowledge and wisdom is the real power.
My work has given me a unique knowledge of radioactivity, but not without costs, as you see.
She took the call without my knowledge.
If he has a knowledge of explosives, there could be problems.
What knowledge?
The Kryptonian archive contains knowledge from 100,000 different worlds.
I didn't have the medical knowledge I needed for Klingon anatomy.
How dare you put the reserve army on standby without my knowledge?
With all the knowledge you have now?
When you approved this ad, did you have any specific knowledge that the Reverend Falwell had ever engaged in sexual intercourse with his mother? Her predecessor, Leodore Lionheart, denies any knowledge of her plot, claiming he was just trying to protect the city.
Without the knowledge of the individual, certainly without any choice.
I have not found their source, but as you wisely do, I will leave this alone, for knowledge of their existence is sufficient.
He said, I'm convinced that neither Mr. Coulson or anyone else at the White House had any knowledge of or participation in this deplorable incident at the Democratic National Committee.
No, not to my knowledge.
Because I can state from my own knowledge and experience.
Early reports suggest the weapons used would require highly specialized knowledge that very few people possess.
And the knowledge Uguay left in our care.
In fact, if he had an inquiring mind, his knowledge might be...
Thirsty little minds rushing to the fountain of knowledge.
You have the knowledge.
You get knowledge.
We're ready to learn to get some knowledge.
She says it was common knowledge around the office that her lesions were caused by AIDS.
Listen, take some knowledge.
To make contact in the spirit of exploration and furthering the knowledge of the universe.
Yes, the right person, of the right character, with the right knowledge.
We know that everybody who works under Haldeman does so with his knowledge.
They are called because of their all-consuming knowledge of the emptiness of all things that can only be filled by the presence of our Savior.
Oh, well, knowledge is my reward, sir.
I'm to the full knowledge of my own death. I knew the giant couldn't kill me.
Your knowledge of Premier League football is integral to one of her schemes.
When you listen, you get knowledge, not a carnival prize.
This is a cathedral of knowledge.
Sometimes knowledge is a curse, Ed.
Would have been the knowledge that her rotting flesh was to be trapped for all eternity inside a big box and buried in the middle of a fucking golf course.
I plan to be in Congress tomorrow to share my knowledge of big tobacco and all those who enjoy its products.
The knowledge of another terrible fire and 2 words on a slip of paper.
All without my knowledge and approval.
And Mom and he later started up a consulting firm combining her get-up-and-go resourcefulness with his wealth of knowledge.
By the way, that little sliver of knowledge will cost you 5 pieces.
For indeed his divine power has granted us all things pertaining to life and piety through the knowledge of him who has called us.
Why must knowledge stand still?
No, sir, not to my knowledge.
The path to knowledge is fraught with consequence.
Freezing with the knowledge of the way fellow teenagers can be cruel.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Remember, there are things beyond your knowledge.
But let me hit you with some knowledge.
Your knowledge of the area, you're making friends in that village?
With the knowledge you've been given, you are now on the inside of what I like to call the Burns family circle of trust.
If it happens to go on without my knowledge, so be it.
He's just hungry for knowledge, that's all.
Love, knowledge, or wisdom in the grave.